Whoop, whoop.
Whoop. Fucking whoop.
Greg,
That's me.
what episode is this?
Dave.
Yes.
Nick. This is episode 41.
It is. Oh, all right.
We've done this 41 fucking times.
Wow.
When does it ever end?
When we all die.
It'll be close to 6. It'll be 6 years this fall.
Jeez.
Which is kind of like, yeah, it's at least 5. I'll have to check.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
Who would have thought we had that much to talk about?
Huh? It keeps going.
The trash just keeps coming.
Yeah.
It's endless.
Gotta
The
go
endless
somewhere.
dumpster dive.
So yeah, this is sort of not related to that, but it occurred to me this morning that I've had a very weird sonic week.
In a good way.
I'll leave that up for you to decide. Almost basically to the minute, a week ago, started out this week at the Monster Truck Rally in downtown Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Yes, and it
This is
was
a good start.
As one should.
it's just cacophonic. It's so loud, and it is. I mean, it's garbage. It's truly horrific. I mean, and it fills the arena with fumes. But it's as a noise show, it's stellar. Follow that up a couple days later, the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra, Yo-Yo Ma performing.
Yes.
And that was completely different, like a 180. It was beautiful. It really was astounding. And the first part started with a Sergei, I'm gonna fuck this name up.
Go for it.
Prokofiev.
Sounds good to me.
Fair enough. They did the Romeo and Juliet opus. It's fucking fire. It's really it's a beautiful piece.
Good drops.
Oh, it was it's classical, so like the buildup is like 12 minutes long, and then there's a drop.
Was that to celebrate the new Skrillex album?
Skrillex, I don't believe, was in attendance. I didn't see them.
He did just drop a new album
Yeah.
Did he?
yesterday.
Yeah.
Are you excited?
Read my face. What does that say?
It's the first album in 10 years, Dave.
Yeah.
Has it really been 10
decade.
fucking years?
Oh, yeah.
It accompanies the rebranding of Skrillex, too.
Yeah. No more bro step.
Oh, what's the move now?
I listened to the first track and it was house
Oh,
Yeah.
with
okay.
dubstep elements.
Yeah. Because he's doing like the back-to-back-to-back with Fortet and Fred again. And they like just played on the lot radio yesterday.
Okay.
So it's like his entry into the, other side of, well, not the other side, but like one of the other worlds of dance
Right.
music. And like short hair now. He looks like, dressing in black, looking like he could go into Berghain and it wouldn't be too bad.
Right. Except the fact that like he's always going to be Skrillex, so
Hmm.
that's baggage that's going to be very hard to unload.
Yeah.
He's trying to leave the bro step behind him, Dave. It's in the past. He's turned his back on that. He's a new man.
Turned a new leaf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give him a chance, Dave.
I mean, I will listen to it.
I'm just joking.
I will listen to it out of curiosity. My faith that this is
I got about 30 seconds into it.
Okay.
I turned it off. Yeah.
Now he's going to be in the basement of the lab in Berghain taking piss in his mouth. Listening to fucking Boris pound the room out and fucking... It's a different world, man. You're not cleaning up cake pieces when Steve Aoki's done and you get back in the mix at fucking Coachella. Not today, man.
well. Hopefully, he's listening to this cautionary tale that you
Getting shit and
provided.
piss on in the basement of a German fucking industrial building.
The day after this episode goes live, you just see the headline: Skrillex calls it quits.
Reasons unknown.
So yeah, Skrillex was not on my list of the things that I experienced this week. And then
Okay.
last night was Claire Rouse at a Warhol museum.
Yeah.
Fucking astounding. But
It was.
again, another like 180. Not 180
Yeah.
back into a Monster Truck Jam, but like 180 into like a different dimension. It was like field recordings and ambient textures and like vocal recordings and
A lot
shit.
of auto-tune. Like
Yeah.
seeing through auto-tune in a way that wasn't unpleasant. Like I think
Yeah.
it fit the aesthetic and like guitar stuff that didn't that wasn't upsetting.
Yeah.
As like acoustic guitar can be sometimes
Yeah.
in that context. It was good. Sound quality for their set was exceptional.
Absolutely,
It
yeah.
was really good. props to the sound person who kind of did that.
Absolutely. I've seen a couple things there at the Warhol that I mean, sometimes it's not great, but when it's on, it's fucking on. It's not a bad place to see things.
Yeah.
Also, chairs.
Chairs.
I'm getting old. I appreciate now shows with chairs, comfy chairs too.
Yeah, I saw Claire. She tweeted too, saying she played like a soft set because she was like, "Oh, people are sitting down," and maybe that wasn't the expectation. So I was like, "I'm going to play like my soft set," and I don't know. That's up my alley anymore. You know.
Oh,
Like,
yes.
Hearing issues aside, I'm just kind of like, I want like rounded, soft things. I'm like feeling my age a little bit. You know? Like,
Yeah.
Funny enough, I was just talking to Dave about that before you
Oh,
showed
yeah?
up. I was like, this is like, I want a big comfy couch. I was like, I kind of hurt lately, and I just want to be fucking comfortable. It's like,
there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
I can't just sit on a floor anymore and be okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
done that a lot. We put in some time. Man.
And like slept on like just hardwood floors or concrete floors at the back of a venue or at someone's
An abandoned
base.
meatpacking plant
Yeah.
in Detroit. We've all done our fair share of it.
And like hopped up the next morning and like, you know, sort of like cracked your back and was like, I'm gonna feel that, and then like just walk away. Where now I'd be like incapacitated.
Yeah.
I would just be out for the like,
It's like, well, I'm done for the weekend, boys.
someone get me the car, I'll just lay in the back seat.
Fuck, I used to sleep in your van.
Yes.
I can't even imagine doing that right now. I'd probably be fucked for a couple of days. Like,
Did you sleep on the floor or on the couch that I sawed in half and
the
just
blue Muppet couch.
Fuck, I
Yeah.
forgot about that.
Slept on both.
Yeah, it wasn't like affixed to the floor or anything. It was just
No.
a couch thrown in the back of the van, and as you would drive, it would just slide around. It was
It was awesome, is what it was.
It was. I was R.I.P. that van.
Yeah.
We went on some adventures in that van.
I remember my first time in that van. I was like, wow, what the fuck is going on here?
Best $400 I ever spent. R.I.P. that van and R.I.P. your back all those nights.
And the pink boombox
Oh yeah,
that
they
got stolen in
Oh,
Detroit.
shit.
That had the Randy Macho Man Savage rap CD in it.
Yeah.
It did. They busted open the window of and that's the only thing they stole.
Yep.
So it was like hundreds of dollars to replace the window for a $5 boombox and an even less valued CD. That I was
What
like,
are you talking about? That CD's priceless, Dave. It's
I
a
mean,
rare artifact.
I think it has a negative value. If you come across it, you actually owe somebody money.
Be a man, Hulk.
I mean, I remember it because it was the only CD we listened to driving from Pittsburgh to Detroit.
5
Yeah.
hours on repeat. Yes.
I've had a taste of that venom before.
You know, now that we're saying this out loud, it never occurred to me. What if someone we were with pretended to break in just to take rid of it? Yes. Wow, I'm starting to suspect.
No, they broke right in.
Yeah.
Kind of saw some good running away.
Damn, your boombox is gone. Oh no, and the CD.
Fucked up my hand a bit though. Like, right after. Is that a piece of glass?
It's weird it didn't take anything else. Wow, I did not think solving a crime would be on our agenda for this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, where are we going?
Yeah.
We were talking about Yo-Yo Ma. Now
Yeah, I
we're
was
talking about
Yeah.
Randy
Yeah.
Macho Man.
Ooh, tangent.
That checks out. Yeah. I feel like
That's
this
how we're rolling today, folks.
Exactly.
We got to roll with the punches.
It's a Saturday in a sunny but cold Pittsburgh. Yeah.
So what's on everyone else's lists? I mean, I'm the only one with a paper list. Everyone else is using
I have a
technology.
digital list, you know.
Yeah, digital list as well. Yeah, what did I say last time? I wasn't going to shuffle anything. Of course, per standard, shuffled a bunch of shit. ER301 left the mix, and that kind of funded the rest of the adventure. I did want to talk about the ER301 really briefly, like, because I had that thing for a number of years. And
Yeah.
I guess my end summary with it is like, just use a computer. You know, and I don't mean that to like, it's a really cool object. It's awesome. A lot of the stuff was just a lot harder to do than in Ableton, to be honest, or with even Max for Live. And people would liken that thing to like Max MSP in like module, and it was nothing near that. it was more like Ableton, affect swim lanes with some like modulation and ability to like, affect those things. But never had quite the power you would want. A lot of limits. And for me, it was just like I used it in like one kind of track that I have in the queue to finish. And other than that, like a live set, and it just never quite gelled for me. And as soon as I kind of got rid of it and put some simpler things in space, it was like it was the feeling I expected of like kind of a weight lifting. Even though when I shipped it to the person, I was like, oh, it's like gave all these instructions as though it was like my daughter going to school or something like that.
And it likes to be read a bedtime story, and if it gets a little gassy, just hit it on the back. Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely a jack of all trades, master of none type thing. It has some cool stuff. It can do like, 6 or 10 track, like 96 kilohertz recording and shit like that. But the latency's still a little high for like drum use for what I'm doing. Yeah. And I've just been interested in some like flatter stuff. And so accordingly picked up a couple things that I'll talk about, mainly like Cosmix Pro and Sofia from Zauk Chaos Devices. Both fucking astounding.
So if I have my druthers, I'm dying to know what you think of the Sofia.
Oh, Sofia?
Same. Yeah, I've had my eye on that one since it was announced.
It's like, I was thinking the past couple days about how to explain it, given like there are these, it's a single oscillator and you can kind of blend between two different like ways of affecting it. Like it has these elements and these ripples, and they're kind of like, I'll do a terrible job of explaining this. You can research some of the technical stuff, but I can talk about it as a user of it. And what I'm looking for right now is like really liking analog stuff and the ability to like push it a little, kind of like have the Sputnik variable waveform generator. I really like that because of the different options it has. And the Sofia is one of the coolest, like we were saying last night a little, I'd love a book that like compiles all the ways you can treat an analog oscillator and the things you can do, because the sounds it can make are like really interesting in the way that it can like kind of morph an analog waveform. You can kind of switch between like fundamentals. Like I think you asked me last night, it looks like Odessa very similarly. Couldn't be more different. That's like a digital additive thing. This is like pure analog, and wow, it's got like the juice to it, like literal, like kind of like squirty, almost like juicy analog, like weirdness that happens. It's really good at patching itself. It's got a number of outputs, like fundamental outputs, and then like these kind of ripple outputs. But you can kind of fade between these two types of elements to get these different like alterations of this core analog oscillator.
How are you setting up the thing that you're morphing between?
You're kind of just setting the level to which these warping and damp controls like affect. Like those are the sliders you get to like warp and damp. I like the way you tune it too. You just get like a fine tune and then octave control, which I really love. I don't like coarse tune very much anymore. I just want to know where C or whatever it's set to is, and then an octave control. And you get each of these elements on each side, basically. You get like a main output, and then you kind of get this fundamental output as well. And then like an A out and a B out. So each side has its own output, even though it's coming from the same like core. And it's got a global FM control, damp, warp, and then ratio controls. And when you think of ratio, you would think like FM, but it's not quite. My understanding is it creates kind of these ripples harmonically within this oscillator core in a way that I've never seen like another thing. It almost like, I don't like straight up wave folding very much. Like it's a sound that almost is like nails on chalkboard to me when it's not done subtly. And this to me like gives kind of that subtle harmonic change and like the ability to like that, like it's a rubbery like squirtiness of the oscillator that I think is like really well suited to the kind of techno stuff I'm doing now, like taking an analog oscillator and twisting it harmonically in a way that's like interesting but not super predictable. And I also realized have the Pittsburgh Flamingo, which is a harmonic interpolation, processor, if you will. You run a waveform into it and it gives this like center folding. It was an old Don Buchla circuit. And I'd always struggled to kind of find a use for it musically, maybe because I was running like digital oscillators that were already complex into it. But this pairs up with it like perfectly. I wish I could just like mash it into the faceplate somehow and have those options there, because I would always probably use them together. and it lets you twist like the harmonics a bit more in a way that borders on wave folding, but sounds a little more wet and a little less mechanical almost. And it's just like, I kind of expected, my friend Luke like recommended it to me. It was like, oh, you would really like this. This is like crazy. And the more samples I heard, I'm like, oh, this is really unique. And then got it and just like it's my go-to analog oscillator right now. Using it for everything. It's just got a really nice sound that isn't too niche. It could feel like regular oscillator duties. I usually have it in the sine mode though, and not like the square fundamental. Because I like how that sounds. It's just a little smoother. I really like it, even for the real estate. I just think they nailed it. I like it even more than Odessa. If I would have to pick one of them, I think it's the one that's more useful to me musically in a way than Odessa, which is kind of this like really special effect, like Native Instruments Razor type additive thing, which is cool, but not as useful generally. I can see like having two Sofias and using it just to have two separate voices musically. Very different sound than the analog oscillators I have. Not quite classic, not quite modern, if you want to bucket it that way. Just really like good sound. Definitely recommend it.
How's it hold up the low end?
Very well. That's a good question. Because a lot of that stuff can fall apart there. And I think the low end is kind of where it shines. Like Odessa has a little low end, but not like, you wouldn't use it for a bass. And this I would use for like bass stuff almost constantly, easily. It's really good at that and shines at it.
Yeah, I really liked Odessa for like texture duties.
Yeah. It's great for that. Like really like sci-fi, it's UFO sounds and like really warpy, like pitch shifty for sure. So yeah, it's super impressive. It's really got me interested. Like I've been doing a lot of stuff on the analog side of things, whereas I felt like I was focusing on like digital oscillators, especially for a long time. And it's just like nailing the sound that I'm kind of going for with my stuff right now. So I'm super, super happy I got it. So,
Nice. That's awesome.
It's rad.
I can talk about something on the flip side of that.
Oh yeah.
It's similar like how you're saying you're focused on digital. That's kind of where I've been at for a while now. Just kind of been avoiding analog stuff, not intentionally. It's just kind of like just hasn't been attracting my ears.
Yeah.
One of the weirder things that I purchased was like last year in episode 35. We were talking about a thing called VanEck. I don't know if you guys remember.
I do.
So yeah, I'll do a brief recap, I guess, in case anyone.
I don't remember it at all. I remember the name.
So VanEck was a module that just like popped up out of nowhere by independent manufacturer called Forge TME or Forge Time. It's a wave table-based oscillator, like purely digital, that has some onboard generative and processing functions built in. It kind of reminded me of like a Piston Honda on acid. Like, I purchased it on a whim. It just like popped up on Mod Wiggler one day. The guy was like, "This is my module. I've been working on it for 2 years throughout the pandemic. You can order it directly through me." And he had some YouTube videos.
Yeah, it was a cool post.
It was like really cool. And like the description of it was the VanEck twists, convulses, and walls in a vortex haunted, spitting dirt and dust, time and raw energy. Rapid shadows, alien physics, pulsating artifacts, sometimes ridiculous, sometimes possessed. I was like, I'm sold.
Yeah,
married.
The videos were cool. That description caught my attention, and like the sound was like very raw, very experimental. And it was just available, like as he posted it. You know what I mean? There was no teasing, there was no Kickstarters, there was no bullshit. It was just, this is the thing that I built, you can buy it.
Which I appreciate. I like that sort of no teasing, no hype, just as is.
Yeah. I appreciated it a lot. At the same time, though, it kind of felt sussy. Like, you know what I mean? It was kind of like, it felt like a risky purchase to me.
Yeah.
Because they had no track record, nothing. But I took the jump. I purchased it and was like immediately having fun building like industrial, textures and soundscapes with it.
So based on that description, did it actually evoke that written description?
It did.
Okay, so it was accurate.
Fairly accurate. Yeah, dude knew what he was going for when he built it.
Yeah.
And he nailed it, in my opinion. It wasn't perfect. You know what I mean? Like, it was a really cool module, but there was a few ideas that I had that would have made it better. And there was only 50 made at the time, too. So they're like, it was very few. But the people that had it, similar to myself, like, we were all kind of into it and posting suggestions.
Did it have a microprocessor that could be updated? Or was this something that he was
idea.
like, oh, these are great ideas, and then there's going to be 1.1 firmware, and you can get all of your ideas in it?
Well, like immediately, like myself and a few others that had it started coming up with like some feedback and posting it on the Mod Wiggler thread that he had made. And he was like very receptive to it. And he said like, you know, he did a short batch of these, but he was already coming up with his own ideas for like a future version.
Okay.
Nobody knew if this would be an update or a hardware revision or what, or like an expansion. Like we were talking about maybe doing an expander at some point that would add like CV over the generative functions and things like that. So he was like paying attention to everyone's feedback and asking for more. And now, as of like a week ago, he mentioned that he's about to release the second version, which he's just calling VanEck X. Is
it new hardware or is it an update?
All new hardware, an entirely different new module. Yeah, it seems to take it to the next level. He's also going to be producing a lot more than just 50 this time around. He said he has received interest from about 200 different people. And he says he has the components to try to do around 300 to 400. And he's going to be doing them in batches of like 50 to 100 at a time. The first 25 supposedly will be released this month, but it's just going to be to local buyers in Australia. It's going to be like the pilot run to see if, you know, it's functional and all that. And then if it's working fine, he's going to open it up to international sales. The new version features 24-bit input-output stereo processing, which is cool because I love wavetable-based processing and mangling. Yeah, that's the big one for me. He also says that there will be some banks dedicated just for processing this time around. There will be CV control over everything now, including the generative functions.
Oh, nice.
Which have also undergone some improvements, whereas instead of just like flipping to random modes, you will be able to scan through these like generative algorithms that he has in there that just kind of shifts and morphs it. 27 new modes altogether. Volume control for the input-output levels, a dedicated VCA with a CV control in the output. It'll save current parameters when you power it off, and the price tag they're aiming for $525 USD. So kind of steep for a complex oscillator, but I kind of view it more as just an oscillator. You know what I mean? It's more like a oscillator slash processor slash just drone texture machine, kind of self-contained. That's why it appealed to me in the first place.
How much was the first version?
I forget. I want to say like $350.
Okay.
Could be wrong.
Is it like same size, like bigger?
24 HP, so bigger.
Oh, okay. It's bigger.
A chunk bigger, yeah.
Does it have a screen now? It didn't have a screen before, did it?
It didn't before. I don't remember if it does now. He did send a picture in the email. I forget if it had a little screen or not. I don't think it does. I think there's no menu diving, that's for sure. It's all like up front, you know, all parameters are mapped to a knob basically, or a switch.
So this sounds like chaos. How do you intend to use it? What's your plan for it?
Chaos.
Okay.
Like industrial soundscapes basically, and hopefully live performance. Because while like what it does isn't anything new to me, you know what I mean? It kind of reminds me of like patches that I used to create using like 2-piston Hondas and like a Rainmaker, you know what I mean? Or like just wavetable based oscillators through delays and shit like that. And I would use to make just strange like textures and soundscapes live. Like last time I performed, I was doing just that. I had I think it was a piston at the time, and I was running it through a Rainmaker and stuff like that. And I was using it to make pseudo generative like textures, you know, like evolving over time and randomizing when I would hit certain parameters and shit. And I had some presets saved. So this kind of feels like a shortcut for me to achieve that type of industrial dirty raw sound in a self-contained module.
It's chaos, but can you tighten it up and get control and get it to sort of repeat sounds over and over again?
You can,
Okay.
but you also don't at the same time. Like the switches, when you hit them, like it would shift things algorithmically. You didn't have any control of what it was doing exactly, and that was kind of the appeal for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was just kind of like, just fucking around until you found something you enjoyed, and then you can expand it from there. I like that type of approach. Especially in a live performance mode, you know what I mean? I like to improvise on the spot and try to come up with something that I like.
But if our listeners are listening to this, it sounds like it's always this untamed beast. Like
the only thing that's a little untamable that you don't have any control over is like if you're hitting those algorithms, you know what I mean? To shift.
Yeah, so if you get a sound you like, you can actually, I'm just going to keep using this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, there was like different modes, and then when you hit the seed button, it would, change accordingly depending on like what mode you were in.
Gotcha, okay.
And, the parameters are always still locked to those, the same functions that they do. Mm-hmm. So like, you just kind of rein it in that way. But at the same time, there was always potential to just get a new sound out of it, that was like not entirely intentional, which I liked. So yeah, hopefully that will be out soon. I plan on getting one as soon as I can.
Are you going to keep the original one that you have, or is it?
I already sold it to make room for this one.
Okay, that answers that question.
Yeah, like I wanted to make sure that I could get this as soon as I can. And he made a few other, I guess just version 1. He made like a handful more that he's selling, I guess, to help make funds for this. So, but it was still like super limited.
Are you and everyone else who provided like feedback getting like shout outs in the manual?
I don't think so, but I think we can all pat ourselves on the back for having like a hand in taking this to the next level. You know what I mean?
There's no Greg knob.
No.
Again, it's more or less Greg.
No. And some of the suggestions I had, people had already made anyways in the thread. So like I was just kind of like nodding in agreement as I was reading this stuff over time. I was like, yeah. But yeah, I'm excited for it. It's probably the only oscillator on the horizon for me that I'm excited about. And it was the version 1 was the last one I bought that really had me excited too. So It's been a year where I haven't really dove too much into new oscillators.
So wait, the first one was only a year ago.
Yeah, probably not even.
That's a pretty quick turnaround to get to version 2.
Yeah. He's been at it since like he released it. Like people started giving feedback, and he was like, "Yeah, I hear you."
And this is only their second module. They haven't done anything else in the interim.
Anything else in between? There was pictures in the videos when this came out originally of like some other stuff that didn't, that was in his rack. That was clearly stuff that he made. It had the same type of like face plates and stuff. So I'm guessing he's working on some other stuff, but this is like, I guess his opus that he's focused on.
Nice.
But yeah, Digital Chaos. Yippee.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things that I have to talk about. I feel like we talked about it indirectly at one point. I got a noise plethora from Bafeco.
Oh yeah, you did. You got the actual hardware.
Database of noise.
Yes, it is a database of noise. And I think my initial, when it first popped up, I was like, oh, this just doesn't seem like anything I need. Like I have ways to make noise. And then
I remember you kind of brushed it aside.
I did brush it aside.
You said, I already have noise sources. I don't fucking need this trash.
You know what? I don't remember correctly. So
I don't know why Bafeco would make this garbage ass module.
Yeah, you spit on a printout of it too.
Yeah, I think you used it for toilet paper at one point.
So my memory is really bad. So all of this could be true. I will believe everything you're saying. I remember being lukewarm towards it though, and then I saw some more demos, and then was doing the sort of like, I do need a better sort of consolidated noise source, and looked around and landed on this, and basically had to take back everything I had said months and or a year ago. It's fucking amazing.
Yeah,
I love it. Yeah, it is the noise texture toolkit, Swiss Army knife as a noise source, as a modulation noise source. It's perfect as just using noise that you want, if you need to make snare sounds or hi-hats or any of those sort of like percussive sounds with noise. you have an amazing amount of control over shaping that. Or if you just want to make something for a noise set, you could do an entire noise set just from this module and a shitload of modulation sources. Total flip on it. And so it's 2 generators, well, 3 generators, but the A and B generators are the same. You choose, there's 3 banks. The banks are textures, just a lot of FM shit. HH clusters, which initially I thought was hi-hat clusters, and then I was like, oh wait, no, it means like hi-hi cluster, like math clustering. Yeah.
I thought it was hi-hat cluster too.
Yeah, it's a lot of like detuned, and like this, like the spreading and indexing is like the parameters you have for it. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is hi-hat clusters, but the more I thought about it, I was like, this seems really math heavy. It's probably the hi-hi cluster in clustering algorithms.
What if a hi-hat's just a mathematical construct that exists in the universe?
Let's shut it down. We're gonna get raided because that's like either by the FBI, the CIA, or the Illuminati. Like that was not supposed to be spoken.
I'm sorry.
Wow.
I've been playing with the VCV rack version of it.
Yeah.
And enjoying it quite a bit. I'm curious to see how it differs from the hardware.
I would be
if it
too.
Sounds any different?
The Sonic. Oh, and I'm sorry. And the last one is the C bank is just harsh, wild noise, chaos shit.
Like a sample or something like that, or how does that?
So the whole thing is digital.
Right.
It's different banks.
It's banks.
Aspect. Yeah.
And then I think there's 10 algorithms in each of the banks, and then they have, depending on what you've chosen, it's either like sine waves that have these different sort of relationships with one another, and you've got 2 parameters that can modulate them with FM or change their pitch or change the index on them. And then the harsh noise stuff is, it's white noise or like a couple of like crazy weird algorithms, and then this changes 2 of the parameters. And then there's a 3rd generator at the bottom that sits there, and it's just a white noise and something called grit. And there's a grit amount, and there's 3 outputs for that one. White noise just as is, grit as is, and then a filtered output. It's the 2 of them filtered, and each of the and all 3 of the outputs have these analog filters. Even though it's entirely digital, it's analog filters, and then all 3 in there they've got a little switch for modes: high pass, low pass, and band pass. This is like,
fuck, that's cool.
I was like shocked by how much shit they crammed into it. Now, there's one weird thing. When I first was like, oh, I'm going to get this. I'm like, oh, it's a kit. I'm going to get the kit. Yeah, I'll make that. I ended up getting a completed one from Perfect Circuit because it was only going to be like $15 more. It was wildly expensive kit. The only place that had it was Thonk. So I would have had to like get it shipped. And when everything was said and done, I was like, it was going to be, like I said, about $15 less than just getting it from Perfect Circuit already done. And it looked like it was a bit of a monster build.
Yeah.
Lots of parts. But yeah, no, it's fantastic. And even just doing something as simple as once you pick a bank, there's a CV input for the program, like which of those 10 algorithms you have for that bank, that's CVable. So just firing CV into that just changes and morphs that over time. Super responsive to CV, even like taking noise out from the 3rd generator and using that to change the program.
Yeah, it's good for self-patching. I honestly wasn't going to talk about it much because it's kind of been my secret rhythmic noise weapon for the last couple months.
I'm blowing up your spot.
You're blowing up the spot.
I am sorry for blowing it up because it is, the self-patching of this thing is just fucking amazing.
Yeah.
I absolutely love this thing. I feel bad for how lukewarm I was to it.
Yeah, I mean, your lukewarm attitude towards it made me kind of disregard it for a while too. And then like I just happened to see that it was available for VCV, and I was like, oh yeah, this is that thing that Dave, shook off, guffawed at,
stuck his nose up.
Yeah. I was like, oh, let me try this, and like playing around with it for a while. I was like, I see a lot of like rhythmic noise potential here that I did not anticipate. I was like, this thing's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's maybe 2 algorithms out of the entire set of 30 that I'd say are like okay and not great. Each of them have 2 arguments. There's an X and a Y, they call it. And they're different. They're context sensitive based on what algorithm you pick. Those are CVable. The cutoff for the filter, each filter has their own cutoff CV. The grit amount has a CV. It's really shockingly full featured, and like you can just shape stuff in this amazing way. Like 2 enthusiastic thumbs up. And again, Greg, I'm sorry, I've ruined your secret sauce there.
It's the secret weapon, man.
Yeah,
I've been using it a lot in the recordings I've been doing lately.
we'll throw them all
There's
out,
some
man.
stuff.
Now it's
Gonna be trendy.
exactly, because that's how we
throw it all away.
that's what our recordings do. These episodes set trends.
That's what happens when you're an influencer, Dave.
Are we influencers or are we synth-fluencers?
Jesus Christ. I
Edit that the fuck out.
up until recently, dude, I didn't even know that synth-fluencer was a term
Yeah.
or a synth tuber.
Oh, I don't think
I've seen both getting tossed around lately,
wish I
mainly
didn't know
stemming from that Red Means recording shit.
Yeah.
That synth tuber and synth-fluencer, for some reason, it just like brings to mind an image of like some bro dude on a ski slope in like a neon pink outfit, chugging a Red Bull. Like, hey,
Yeah.
bro, I'm a synth tuber.
Smash that subscribe button.
Smash that bell.
chugging
Remember
like
to like and subscribe.
chugging like a Roland Ira energy drink or something like that. Like, boom.
Can't wait to peep the new electron digs, bro.
Holy shit.
I hate it. It's like the worst term ever. I thought influencer sucked, but
Yeah.
synth-fluencer or fucking synth-tuber. I was
Yeah, that feels gross.
Synth tube is just, there's something unsettling about like those two words beside each other.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that at all. So I feel like that was on your list of things to discuss.
Oh,
this evening.
bitching about Red Means recording.
Okay, that was.
Can I rant?
Please.
I would love to rant a little bit about that. It's been bothering me for weeks, to be honest. Like,
do you think we're gonna hold you back?
maybe?
No, there's no like the gate's open.
But what if ranting about other synth-fluencers ruins our prospect of becoming big synth-fluencers, Dave? Everyone's banding together. They're unionizing to fight against the big music gear corporations, Dave. Get what's fair for them. Don't we want to ride that train too? Get what we deserve.
I like that both of us have trouble saying synth-fluencers.
It
It does not roll off the tongue at
not
all.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, Nick, can you say it?
Synth-fluencer.
Do you say the?
Synth-fluencer.
Synth-fluencer. Oh yeah, when you do it quicker, it's hard.
Yeah, it's a hard
Censor.
word. It's
Synth-fluencer.
it's wildly inorganic. So go ahead, Greg. The floor is yours.
It's bringing like an image of like the cheesiest used car sales lot that you can imagine,
Mm-hmm.
you know? But instead of like cars, it's just like gear.
Yeah.
Like you got the Electron corner over there, and this dude's in like a fucking popped collar dress shirt. Hey, bro, what do I got to do to get you in this new Octatrack today?
Oh god.
So I'm gonna go talk to my manager, and I'm gonna see what
if I
kind
can
of
get you a sweet discount, bro.
What if
I'll throw in a
Sweetwater-
free MIDI cable.
I just got hired as the resident synth-fluencer at Sweetwater. Did I just speak something terrible into existence?
This is twice now. Tonight you have caused cosmic damage.
That's what happens when you stay up till like 6.
But yeah, it's I'm assuming that most people that listen to us have
Oh, yeah,
probably had some exposure to the latest Red Means recording video.
Yeah.
Like, because even big like music
Likely.
gear blogs have been
But if
talking
not-
about it, and for the most part, shitting on it. And I think rightfully so.
So in case they haven't, is there sort of a bumper sticker or executive elevator pitch?
Yes, Jeremy from Red Means Recording has main character syndrome, and like real bad, and thinks that like the whole industry should revolve around what he considers a fair wage, because he sold his soul to be a fucking gear shill, and now feels like a cheap, dirty whore, and doesn't think that his value has been met. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
And this came out in the form of a very
a big video where he goes back and forth between cuts of him arguing his own points.
yes, yeah.
In case we're too dumb to understand it or to come up with our own interpretations of what he's saying, he interprets it for us and lets us know why he feels he should be paid more to do what he does, which is film a 10-minute long video of him wanking on a drum machine or a new synth, and thinks that he should be getting enough money to pay his mortgage, his words, for doing this. Yeah, it was a strange video. And like, I watched it and I was like, that was weird. And then I tried to let it go.
Right.
But then like over the course of the week following the video, I saw it like being referenced everywhere, like in my Facebook feed, in my music gear blog feeds, like all that shit. Like people,
it became. I almost missed it at first, and then
it went a little
saw it on
viral.
Twitter, like
Yeah.
incidentally right after you mentioned it. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, I'm gonna like see what the deal is here.
it went a bit viral, and not really in a good way. Like I think in his mind, he imagined everyone like rallying behind him.
Yeah, and I watched the video, and what I was getting was a little bit of like the normal Ray, like standing up and like shutting down the factory, and there's going to be this workers' revolution, and we were going to change the industry, and
Right.
like that's what and maybe I'm misinterpreting like what his intent was.
I mean, some of the stuff he was saying like made sense. Like it
Yes.
started out okay.
Mhm.
Like one of the first things I took a note of, he says, gear is fleeting. It's creativity and time and passion that matters more than anything else. And I was like, cool.
Yeah.
I'm following you.
Yeah,
sure.
I'll keep watching this video.
Yeah.
But then like he goes back and forth talking about like how the industry needs to change because big manufacturers are taking advantage of him and people like him by paying him with heavily discounted gear or free gear that he can either keep or sell and then have the money for. He says that that's not enough. And he uses an example as a $500 drum machine is what he kept saying.
Mm-hmm.
First off, I don't know what drum machine he's getting for $500.
Right.
But I know a lot of people that would gladly take that and say thank you. But he goes, I'm going to get this drum machine and I'm going to learn it and I'm going to make a video showing it off and making music with it. And then if I don't say anything completely negative about it, other people will go and buy this drum machine. So I'm left with this drum machine and I don't need a drum machine. I can't pay my mortgage with a drum machine. I can't feed my dog with a drum machine.
So to be
Kinda
fair,
can.
that is a fair point. I mean, there's an economy here that we're talking about. Is the value that he created with the work that he did worth more than that $500 machine?
No.
That is I think that's the fundamental flaw to all of this is, dude, it's an ad. You made an ad.
You made a slick ad.
You're also like, it's almost like you're complaining about your ability to negotiate too.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
an industry that you created yourself in a sense that nobody like.
Putting the entire
Forced
industry
you
on
into.
blast
Yeah.
because your negotiation tactics, or you literally feel like you're not getting paid enough after selling your soul to these companies that shill for them.
Then don't do it.
Then don't do it.
Or-
Yeah, it's
or-
meant to be a hobby.
or pivot into other business opportunities. I mean, like
Sure.
make a Patreon page.
He has one.
But like, there's other people that are in the same spot, and in fact, arguably, a lot of people are not just with synthesizers, but other people that are doing this type of work. There's a hustle, and I'm not
Quote unquote work.
right, but I'm not, and I'm certainly not advocating for hustle culture.
Yeah.
But there are people that are like, okay, now I've got 10,000 viewers, or I've got X number of viewers. I'm going to parlay that into ad sales or these other things. Like,
Yeah.
if you want to do this for a living, you need to figure out what that next step is. It can't
Which
just
he
be
is doing, which seems
Evidently not,
disingenuous because he doesn't bring that up. He's not talking about the ad revenue that he's getting. He's not talking about the Patreon money that he's getting.
And if he is doing those things, then he is making his mortgage and is feeding his dog.
Even if he isn't, like, to be a synth-fluencer, one would assume that you're doing it because you love gear.
Right.
You have
yeah.
some spare
Yeah.
time. You want to make a fucking video about a
Right.
piece of gear that appeals to you. If you're not doing it for that reason, then why the fuck are you doing it?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
he seems like maybe that's how he started, but he seems to have lost his way. And now he's angry because he's spending time making videos about shit he doesn't really want or care about.
Right.
Yeah.
And he expects it to pay his bills.
It's not that dissimilar from other people that, like, I know that have gotten into making music as a living and then found out that making music for a living isn't that great.
Yeah.
It's actually a really difficult thing. You have to make music you don't like anymore, or you want to do something different, but you can't because you've built a brand or the label wants you to do these other things. Like, this is not a dissimilar problem with other people that take a passion and try to make a career out of it.
Right. But at least with that, there's still some art involved. Even if
Yeah.
you're making shitty pop music,
Right.
there's some art involved. There's no fucking art in being a
Yeah.
synth-fluencer.
Yeah.
Like, come on. Like, he added a couple colored LED lights to his videos. And he was talking like, oh,
Right.
I had to do this to step up my game because there's a lot of competition out there. Like, bro,
Yeah.
no one gives a fuck if you have an LED light
Right.
in your video or
Right.
not. No one cares.
And compare that to like a Richard Devine Instagram video where there's fucking colored lights everywhere, and those are like captivating. If you're going to do that, go all in. Make a fucking crazy video. Like,
Right.
like if you take what you did with an LED strip and compare it to what Richard Devine did, or some of these other people that are just putting them on Instagram, you fell flat, man. Like you didn't.
right.
You
And again,
didn't.
people like Richard Devine, like, he's doing that as a side gig.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not his main gig. That's not his career, is making
Exactly.
bleep blop videos on YouTube. Like, that's a side gig. His main gig is being a sound designer,
Absolutely.
being an
Yeah,
artist.
yeah.
You know, like,
But his videos, they're some of the best videos when it comes to like showcasing some of this gear, because he puts a lot of thought and creativity and care
right.
into those videos, and that just pops off the screen.
Yeah, and he's not trying to fashion them into
Yeah.
something to, market himself or to add to his career. He's just kind of, it is what he wants to do.
Yes.
He does not have to do it. Like, I'm sure in some way there's a promotional benefit, but at this point, he's the number one sound designer in the world, has been
Yeah.
for a long time.
Yeah, I don't,
There's nothing, nowhere to go.
I don't understand at what point he decided, like, this should be a career. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he feels cheated out of it. Like, I'm no career counselor or anything.
Right.
But like, if I was, and some like ambitious kid came into my office in high school and was like, Mr. VanEck, I want to be a synth-fluencer when I grow up, I'd say, it's good to have dreams, kiddo. But let's like focus on something a little more realistic.
We need to get those math grades up because you are
Like-
not going to be able to do
like,
this.
why don't you be a fucking astronaut? Because that would make more logical fucking sense
Yeah.
as a
Yeah.
career
Yeah.
than trying to fucking
Yeah.
pay your mortgage as a synth-fluencer.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is true.
I mean, we should at this point though divulge that we are making 6 and 7 figures each of us.
Oh, yeah.
by doing this.
Easy.
So like
Been
We're all
said.
paid by Roland.
right, we're talking about somebody else. Like the three of us are absolutely rolling.
We're actually just mad because we have a chokehold on this cabal of, synth-fluencing, and we don't
Yeah.
want people like Red Means Recording getting in on the goods.
That's
Absolutely.
the third secret this podcast. Like,
Jesus Christ. So the subtitle, the tagline for this is episode, I already forgot the number, : secrets.
yeah, synth-fluencer Illuminati.
I can't wrap my head around like why he feels like he should get paid more when you're doing something that's like literally a hobby. And he even mentions there's a ton of competition.
Yeah.
There's a ton of other people doing this.
Yeah.
Like, if he doesn't want the $500 drum machine, or if that's not enough, there's plenty of people behind him that will gladly take it
Yeah.
and make a video about it.
Right.
And they'll probably do it with some passion and an unbiased opinion here and there too, which clearly you can't trust him for at this point. He's proven that he has sold his integrity.
Right.
There was a few comments I saw that people were leaving on his video that just like resonated with me the most. This one, for example, says, aren't most small manufacturers actually the ones getting taken advantage of by hundreds of wannabe YouTubers demanding free shit?
Yeah.
Ooh, shots fired.
Yeah,
Right?
that's a
I was
really
like,
good
I agree
point.
with that one.
Yeah.
And I saw another one that I liked. This person said, I prefer unbiased reviews. Once you get paid by a company, you no longer are unbiased. And besides, the perks these influencers, quote unquote, are getting is, of course, clicks. They also get ample access to free software and hardware. I sometimes feel us viewers are getting taken advantage of via the skewed messaging.
Yeah.
We have talked about that on this show.
We have, because we were literally just talking about that
Yeah.
like last episode.
It's so hard to find somebody just sitting down and having an honest interaction with a piece of gear and going, here's what I liked and here's what I didn't like.
Yes.
The second you get that vibe of like you're getting something out of it, even when they go to like, here's the parts I didn't like, is it? Or are you just saying that because you know you have to have a thing you didn't like,
Right.
and you're
It's
kind
like
of
the
phoning
self-review assessment. Like,
Yeah.
what can you work on this year? Well, I have to find something to nitpick. I can be a bit of a perfectionist.
Yes, exactly. like they're just phoning that negative in order to like appear unbiased.
That the comment that I just said,
Yeah.
while that much was good, there was a second part too that I forgot to say too. He says, what he fails to account for while playing an exploited victim by the music industry is that he also takes in Patreon money and ad revenue from YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. So like,
If you're gonna do this, that's the hustle. Getting the Patreon, getting the ad revenue, merch, get a fucking TeePublic site and sell T-shirts of like do the hustle that
That's the
a
thing.
music band
He's-
would have to do.
right.
Yeah.
That's the thing. He's trying to like word it like his character,
Mm-hmm.
aka his brand, is worth more than others. But it's like, is it though? Like, you don't have, like, I don't know him from anything else other than some mediocre YouTube videos. Like, he's not an artist. I've never listened to his music. I don't know him for sound design. I don't think he has had a following leading up to him being a synth-fluencer. So it's like, okay, you don't have a brand. You're trying to force yourself as a character upon people.
And that's the problem. Being a character with, and this is probably a little more subjective, but honestly, of the people that are doing this, the synth-fluencers, he's got the lowest charisma, the lowest personality.
Yes.
Compared to Ben Jordan, compared to even Ricky
Andrew
Tennant.
Wong.
And yeah, there the people out there that, for better or worse, and I'm not advocating you go and check them out, but like, if you're going to be like, hey, listen, I'm a character, yeah, well, you're
Get
really
a little creative with your
you're
videos.
really fucking boring, dude.
Turning on a couple LED lights is not getting creative.
Cuckoo.
Yeah.
Cuckoo, none of us here want to talk about Cuckoo.
You're going to trigger me, Dave.
Yeah. But like, if you were going to be an internet character, that is a fucking character.
Right.
Like, I can see people being like, yeah, I gravitate to that weirdo.
Yeah.
No one's like, oh, Red Meme's recording. I want to have a drink with that guy. What?
No, I've always found him kind of cringy, and his latest video was just like so like weird and off-putting to me that I don't think I'll ever watch his overview videos again.
I had to mute the Twitter. It's that like, it's a rough one.
Yeah, I'm not trying to just shit on him. He's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
alone here. There
Yeah,
are
yeah.
people that are getting behind him on this. Some of them, like I jotted down the names. Heinbach is supporting him, telling him this video is very important. Bo Beats or something. I can't remember his name. Is that his name?
No, it is. I'm just like hit after hit in my mind right now.
Yeah, like, I don't know. The people that I don't watch,
Right.
basically. But yeah, I mean, like you're saying, there's a reason why I stick to just a couple people when I go for YouTube synth videos. It's Div Kid for the most part, Blush Response,
Oh, yeah.
Joey Blush. Like oh yeah, you got a shirt
Nice,
on.
nice
Shout out.
I'm wearing a Blush Response shirt. But full disclosure, this is my fancy shirt. I wore this to the symphony because I was like, oh shit, I don't have like a collared I'm a dirtbag.
Yeah,
Like I only have t-shirts. I chose and wore this because it's my newest shirt.
nice.
And therefore it was the nicest shirt.
I didn't know you were a Blush Response fan, Dave.
I got this when I ordered a bunch of tapes and records from him.
Cool,
I
cool.
threw a shirt in. And his videos are astounding.
They're a blast. He's
Yeah,
having fun.
yeah.
He's having fun.
Exactly. Like, I don't watch his stuff for like technical overviews
No.
necessarily.
No.
I go to DivKid for stuff like that,
Yeah.
or Loopop. But like, Joey's just getting gear that he thinks is interesting, and he's having fucking fun with it. And he's
Absolutely.
using it in a weird, non-conventional, noisy way generally. And I'm like, yay.
And he has that response every once in a while where he's excited about
And he
the
just
sound.
giggles like a
and-
madman. Yeah.
Like,
I
that's
love
worth it. Every time I'm just like, oh, dude, I
Yeah.
know that feeling. That's what we're all chasing.
Right. Is he shilling for these companies? Maybe, but he's having fun with it, and he's not demanding more, and he's not trying to take advantage of his viewers, which is what annoys me the most about this. Like, I
like that it's his opinion. I try even like my Sofia review on one hand, where I think like, oh, that's a bad review technically, but it's like we could start another podcast where we read manuals back to people too. But I'd rather hear like how somebody's using something, and that helps me get a better understanding of how I might like.
I think we've said from the start that we wouldn't get too technically overviewy with our shit that we talk about here, because manuals exist.
Exactly. You don't need me to.
No, you know, I mean, I think people listen to us because they'd rather hear our hot takes on whether or not we like something and why, and not just reading a manual into a microphone necessarily. But so I don't know. It just kind of irked me a bit. You know what I mean? It's like, we do this because we like doing this. You know, like we're not expecting some big fucking payout someday from like Roland or anything or Electron or whatever, because we've mentioned their shit on our show.
That would be wild if Electron paid us to shit on their gear.
Oh my god, that would be kind of. I would respect it.
Like some like Dom shit, like they just get off on us like shitting on their product and which would
and each one they rate as to like how close we are to getting like a digitone or something like that. They're like, no, that was a little weak. It's like a 3/4 of a digitone. You're like,
but they're all still trash. But they're all still just jerking off every time. And I'm like, oh, that's it. Abuse me. I am filth.
Electron takes a strange turn. It's just all about S&M at this point.
Tell me how limited this new Digitact is.
Right. How bad do you want this black machine drum panel? I said that in a German voice. Jesus Christ. I'm sorry, people. You don't want to be me.
Surprisingly, we do have listeners over there.
Yeah.
So let's not offend our German audience.
True.
We know you guys do more than just talk down to people in sexual manners.
Oh my god.
I was talking about Berghain and being in lab and being pissed on. It's because friends of mine were just there and gave the description to me, and it was just enthralling. Talking about like walking around, like I was glad that I had higher heeled shoes to like make it through the shit.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and like how the smell of feces like permeates a lot of it.
I really want to go someday. Like,
it made it more intriguing.
Yeah.
Like, ooh.
Well, was there anything else you wanted to talk about with that note?
No, I just wanted to say that I think it's weird.
Agreed. Yeah.
And we were already talking last episode how we felt like the whole shilling got really bad last year with these types of people, and how everyone was releasing basically the same videos saying the same thing. Like, none of it is per a script, but it might as well be. You know what I mean? For most of these people. And I think that market is kind of imploding upon itself. And I think some people are just going to go quietly into the night and make room for new blood who might be more creative and less biased. Or these types like him are just going to try to have a death grip on it and gatekeep and cry victim and try to band together and ruin it for other people.
Yeah, hopefully it's the former, not the latter.
And start coming with innovations like this, like a 15-second mini review. Mutable blinds, bipolar voltage controlled modulation and mixing. How the fuck does nobody else make that? What the fuck? End of review. Got any questions? Good.
Jesus Christ.
Add that to the list.
I've wanted a blinds forever because
so
of that.
good.
Yeah.
It's so good. No, I'm like, how the fuck did I not get along with this? Like, not many things do that.
Yeah.
And it's like a bipolar CV controlled mixing and modulation. It's so useful.
Yeah. It's also hard to get right now.
Yeah, it is. I go and use them.
Cyrus wanted one. He was like, yo, blinds looks awesome. I'm like, it is. And he was like, how come I can't buy it? I was like, Mutable doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
Nobody clones it either.
Not even after later? I feel like
they might now.
I've seen some people do like a 2-channel, like it's DVCA, it's called, or something like that, but not the 4. And as far as like, I've been feeding a lot of voltages into like quantizers and shit, and not like doing pitched melodies, and it's just fucking awesome for that.
Bipolar VCAs have been very important to me over the last few months rather, for doing feedback, patching, and modulations and stuff. I don't have a blinds because I couldn't get one when I wanted one. I ended up finding an alternative. It's from Nano Modules. It's called Alt. It's a 3-channel bipolar VCA, and then it has a 4th channel that is just like
shit.
regular VCA.
Oh, that's very nice.
I've never
Yeah.
seen that.
Yeah, I kind of stumbled upon it in my quest to find a blinds, and I was like, this will do.
What's the manufacturer?
Nano Modules.
I've never heard of them.
Yeah, they have a couple small utility module. I have another one by them. It's a quad VCA, or I'm sorry, not VCA, envelope generator.
Oh,
Has 3 different speeds per channel. It kind of reminded me of like Aquatics a little bit.
speaking of envelope generators, that's
yes.
something else on my list.
Oh, what do you got?
So it was something else I
yeah.
brought to show off. Again, I didn't bother to plug it in. I got from 4MS, the single ENV VCA. There's a dual NV.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but I just got the single one. Full disclosure, I kind of wish I had gotten the double.
Yeah.
It's real, like the single one's really nice, and now I'm like, fuck, I want more of this.
Mm-hmm.
It's really nice. I think
What made you get that over like the single peg? Like I've been wanting that mini peg.
because I wanted it's a VCA and envelope tied together.
Okay.
That's what I was looking for. I wanted to sort of have
Isn't mini peg?
No,
Or am I
mini
wrong?
peg is
It's just envelope. There's
no
VCA.
VCA.
Okay. For
Yeah.
some reason I was
Just
thinking there
not
was. Maybe I'm getting these two combined in my head.
it's possible
They
because I
dropped
think
them at the same
they
time.
were the same
Okay.
time. Yeah. Well, the mini peg was something else I was looking into, but that's a separate utility that
I
I
can
might
review that next time. I have thoughts on that.
Oh,
now
really?
that I have one. Yeah.
Oh, you have one?
Hmm?
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah.
you had one.
I got it kind of right when it came out because
'Cause
I
you-
love the peg so much.
I was gonna say you have the full.
I have
full
both
body.
back in the mix now. Actually, after I got 301 out of the mix, that freed up a lot of space because I had the Tesseract thing too, and the 30 peg, the full size peg, went back in because it has some advantages over the.
Well, let me go through this, and then
Yeah.
I kind of want to hear
Overview
you.
quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the NVCA, it's envelope NVCA in one. And it's got 3 sliders, and it is rise and fall. And the third slider is a little weird. It's basically the amount that the internal envelope that's being generated it has its own independent output outside of being normaled to the VCA. You can use that envelope for something else. That is basically an attenuator on it. So the rise and fall each have their own separate speed from like absolutely just like milliseconds, like 12 milliseconds, I think. It's 3-stage. It's like fast, mid, and slow. And you can set them independently. It's incredibly snappy to the point of like barely audible to like 12 minutes. Like this, like the range on these envelopes is huge. And then it's normal to this VCA, and it takes an input and an output for audio, or if you want to send CV to it, you could use it in that way too. But it seems like it was intended to be used with audio. One downside is that it's all linear.
Okay.
However, one of the cool things is there's a time CV, and the rise and fall both have attenuverters for this input, which you can then just self-patch the envelope that you're generating into that to give exponential and logarithmic
Sick.
shapes. Yeah, it's really very cool the stuff you can do with it like over time. And
I didn't think of that when I saw it.
I didn't either, and it's actually in the manual, which I thought was a really nice bonus for 4MS to be like, hey, you probably noticed that there's no like ADSR. Well, here's how you make it. There's no, it's linear, but here's how you make it different in that. Like their little like cookbook in the manual is really well thought out, because there is cycle, you can cycle it on and off, which is not super exciting.
Yeah.
However, cycle is its own gate input. So you can just send a gate and turn cycling on and off independent, which is weird, but also like it's kind of cool, like, cool effect. And there's a trigger, like a gate trigger, which does what you would expect it to do. But what's really cool is the follow input. And what it is whenever you have voltage going into follow, it's almost like a slew. It's the envelope is going towards that voltage. And that's how you get things like ASR and ADSR from this very, very small footprint.
That's cool.
Yeah, so like if you send a gate from like a keyboard to both the trigger and this follow, you can get the ASR from that.
Huh.
You take the envelope, that's separate
So
envelope.
it's kind of like a hold.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
But hold more of like, instead of stopping it where it's at, it's the voltage is going at the rate that the rise and the fall is set to towards that voltage.
Gotcha.
So you actually kind of get like, it's more like slew than a proper sample and hold. Like
Right.
it's not like, okay, I'm going to hold it right here. It's more like, oh, here's the voltage up here. Based on the rise, the rate of the rise, I'm going to make my way there. It's really, it's a, for such a small footprint, it does a lot of really cool stuff. It's just, you kind of have to like think in the way that they want you to think.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you just like send the trigger, you got rise and fall, you kind of have a bland linear envelope normal to a VCA,
Mm-hmm.
which is fine. I'm sure like there's a lot of uses for that. It's when you start plugging all this stuff in and doing stuff with the inputs and shaping it, you get really cool effects. I think it's incredibly well designed to the point where once I got it and started using it, it was like, they did a fantastic job. Shit, that dual has all of that and a couple more things.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I will be shocked if in the future I do not get one of the duals.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of it. I think they nailed it.
That sounds. I thought it was less flexible than that when I first saw it, and I was like, oh, it's a slow Pinot with a VCA, which I have like javelins and they're cool.
Right.
I love them actually, but saw that and just was like, oh, I already have one of these, so I won't get it. Are the LEDs extremely bright to the point of being annoying?
They are white LEDs,
okay.
which is not my favorite. I think it's a little brutal. But they're not. No, they're not bad. They are.
They're fucking punishers, is what they are with those LEDs.
But they are. There's a resistor there that shows the intensity. So as you have the envelope down, it's less bright than when you have it all the way up. I probably will scrape them. They're the sort of like slider LED that I might pop it out and.
I use those little LED covers on mine, and they work because like the original peg, like to answer the thing, it was the first module I built, and I've like had it in cases to some extent since I got the mini peg. Was the only first time I took it out, and it felt weird. I like the mini peg a lot. It's got offset and a attenuate version on the output, so you can kind of scale it right there, which is nice, and the original doesn't have. And it has a detented potentiometer to control the time, and it has more time values. But it's also kind of annoying in that regard. And I wish they had like a range switch, because it's really like fiddly to get to the value you want to on there. Like you can get to it, but I wouldn't want to use it live. Whereas the peg I would use live. They merged the skew and the shape controls into one control. Instead of having it be two, which is kind of cool. Like, I get why they did it; it makes sense. But I liked having them individually CV controlled. Like, it's kind of nice for a modulator like that to be able to do that. I like both of them. It's awesome. I totally recommend it. LEDs are too bright on all that stuff. I wish they had some potential trimmer on the back where you could adjust it or something like some companies do, because theirs are just like super bright. Yeah, what else? It's really nice. I really like it. It does have the magic of the peg, but I like having them both. It made me like, I had it in a couple of days, and it didn't replace the other one for me. You know, the original's 2 and this one is just 1. Obviously, it's like the mini. But
They
there's
can
just
cross
something about it.
modulate.
Yeah, they work great together, of course. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of range switches on
Yeah.
envelope generators.
And that's what the MVCA has. It has the short, medium, and long, and I think they did a great job of figuring out what that was. Like the short is for like just that sort of like almost glitchy. Like you're not going to make a percussion from that. It's the mid is the one that you want where like you're going to make a snare sound. That's the one you want. But if you're doing like a fucking drone set and you want that fucking 2 minutes just letting that fucking ride, you hit it up to slow, and it's all just a tiny switch. And the fact that it's on the rise and fall independently, I think is a really great idea. Like you can have a absolutely tight rise and just a slow ass fall. So you get that brick wall up and then just taper out, or vice versa. And I don't have a javelin, but like that was the other thing I was looking at before I got this, and I think those switches and that sort of flexibility is what drove me towards this.
I could see that. Yeah, I like the javelins a lot. They've grown on me. They're definitely super useful, especially now that I have a DVCA to like declick some stuff if I need that. It's like a super sweet setup.
I love my DVCA from Afterlater.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
There's something weird about the idea that it took so long to get the idea of like, if you don't have the outputs, nothing on that output, it's just going to go mixed into the next one.
Right.
Like that's such a great idea, but like it took so long to get there.
Yeah, that's how it's very similar. Like blinds is just like a voltage controlled version of the Phonotronic Cascade, which I have too, and similar thing. Like they're chained below, so you can see it's like you're doing math, essentially with the value, and you see the resulting thing as it cascades. It's a nice like way to work. It makes sense for me, just my brain.
So at this point, I have nothing else on my list, and I feel like we skipped past the Cosmics.
Yeah.
We should probably circle back to the Cosmics.
Cosmics?
I forget how we even veered off track with that.
Well, we started. I listed it when we started.
Yeah.
Okay. I just sort of like muscled my way in there because I'm a big tough guy.
Yeah.
I kicked a bunch of things over. I was like, "We're doing my thing. Look at my list. It's handwritten." So Nick, Cosmics
Pro from Cosmotronic.
So you had the original
Had
Cosmics.
the OG.
Yeah.
Used it for a while. I guess I realized it had more noise than I thought when I was trying to do some cleaner stuff, and like passed it on. Got into the Frap Tools mix, got the quad stereo channel and the group and the output, which I love. Like Frap, that mixing is awesome. But I got to the point where I kind of wanted another mix or two. I realized I have like 2 stereo outs coming from my modular, and that's kind of how that's my limit, like doing music stuff. I like to have those, and I realized I wanted like 2 concentrators or whatever, if you will, 2 mixers to like funnel stuff into those outputs, and I wanted like effects control. Saw the Cosmics. So one of the things was like ultra low noise, like super clean. Like you could tell he was making like a break to be like, not like the old one. And it has like a true stereo aux send, which is super rare. Not many pieces of gear have
it's incredibly rare because
very rare.
I've hunted for that
forever.
Yeah.
It was one of the first things I remember when I started making music. I was like, why is this send just mono? And then people being like, you fool, It's not, and I get like why mixes have been that way, but for like if you're trying to do like sound designy type stuff, like it is very useful. So I got that after, sold the 301 and stuff, and was like kind of shuffling stuff around. Got it and like tested it out, and it's like actually a little quieter even than the Frap Tools QSC, which was like when I got it, the quietest mixer I'd ever had. It was like a revelation. I was like, oh shit, this is like I would mix gear through this probably, and it would sound as good as anything else I have or better. But wanted that because of the true stereo. I wanted more channels. It has the clickless mutes, and it also has like a simpler layout. It's like looks like a little Mackie practically. It's like very standard layout.
Sorry to interrupt.
Mm-hmm.
How many channels does it have?
Oh, is it? I think it's like 4 mono, 2 stereo. I think is how
I think so.
Cosmotronic rocks.
Okay, gotcha.
It's a lot. It's
That's
a
substantial.
good number of stuff. One thing about the Frap QSC is like kind of the way the layout is, like the things that are associated with the channel, they kind of line up above, but they're at like angles and kind of jagged, and that's always thrown me off. And this is more like just right in a line,
straightforward,
something about
vertical
that
layout. Yeah,
like really helps my brain. Big nice lit mute buttons, which every mixer in the world should have in my mind. They're clickless. 10 millisecond delay is how we did it this time. On the original one, I thought it was a little like, it was hard for me to use live. It was a little flabby to like unmute and mute. You had to definitely do it before. This one is like kind of perfect, I think. You almost will think it's off, but then when you use it, it's like you can click it quickly and it's dead on. So it's a really nice mix, I think, of that functionality. Sounds good as fuck. I was surprised at how clean it sounds because I did just a quick like.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
it's clean, but when I was reading up on it, recently, it can get dirty, right?
You can,
you can
yeah.
push
Ooh.
the channels into
You can
gain
push
territory.
the channels
Okay.
Is there
into
a separate gain, or is this just like after a certain
I think it
point?
just has
It's
a
after
lot of
certain
headroom.
point.
Gotcha. Okay.
There's a certain like slider level, and above that level, it would overdrive it a little. Nothing like the OG.
I was
way
gonna say,
more
have you
tame.
experimented with it at all? Like, does it
Yeah.
sound good? Is it good clipping? Are we talking like Mackie old school clipping?
No, not
nothing
even
like
close.
that?
It's
Okay,
way
okay.
more calm than that for
Gotcha.
sure.
Because I still have my version 1 color. I had 2 at one point.
Yeah, I
but
remember
I,
that.
yeah, I summed it down to 1, which I still like. I use it mainly as like, I mean, I know it's a little bit noisy, but I love the distortion circuit that's built into it and the per
Yeah.
channel saturation. So I keep it as a effect more so than like
It's
a mixing
so
unit.
different than that. It's
Yeah.
like another company made a mixer. It's
I-
like
I would
it-
love to
it's
have
nothing.
both.
Yeah,
Like-
I think that would because it has the expander connector too,
Okay.
and you can just feed the main output right into the like mix of the other one without even using up a channel. So it's-
So into the original?
Yeah, it's interchangeable both
Oh,
versions.
shit,
Like he
that's
has that
wild.
expander functionality work between two, which is really cool. I think both of them would be ideal. I think you'd get your clean, you'd get your
Yeah.
like
Mm-hmm.
beefy dirtiness of the other one.
It looks like
that
the
would be
perfect
sick.
live performance mixer to me.
Oh, I think as soon as I got it, I was like, this is, if I would ever play live with the modular again, this would be the core of it. No question. It's
Yeah.
just so easy to see what's going on. You get 2 sends and returns that are on board. Like on the Frap Tools QSC, you got to either have the group or you've got to use one of the stereo channels for your effects return, basically.
Mm.
And it's only got the mono out. Though the Frap does have voltage controlled crossfading and then voltage controlled effect sends on a couple of the channels on the outer edge, which is like
Oh, that's pretty
really
cool.
oh yeah
Yeah,
that's like why I would never get rid of that. I would never want to. I like having both of those mixers together.
Mhm.
It's really nice. It's kind of like my weird version of the WMD performance mixer, which is a little. I like the way both of them operate. It's very different and do different things with them. And there's a lot of cross patching potential too.
Right,
Like sometimes I'll take the output and just put it into the Frap Tools.
So you have like over half a row just dedicated to these mixers.
It's
at
pretty
this
close
point.
to like half of a 104 HP row
Yeah,
for like the
yeah.
mixing. Yeah, including the expanders for the Frap Tools. Yeah. Which I like. That like my one main case is like effects and mixing. Another case is like analog stuff and oscillator sound sources. Then I've got like a modulation case that's focused on that. Like I like having these logical separations now and then like a palette for sequencing because I do a lot of that in the Hapax. And that's like been very productive for me to like break stuff up that way. Actually, I'm thinking my next move is I'm gonna get some color coded tendrils and start to patch voices for color and be like, this voice right here is all white or it's all red or something like that.
Man,
'Cause
that
I'm
is
starting to go there.
That's amazing because I have just a like dog pile of
same.
cables and then like you're the length I need and I'm putting you in and then like not even just hours later, like days later, I've got like patches that run that I'm like building over the course of
Same.
days and I come back and I'm like, I literally have no idea what you're doing anymore.
Yeah.
Like the idea of color coding would solve so many problems with my shitty memory.
Mhm. Same here.
It's good. I do it a lot in
Really?
VCV
I
rack.
noticed you like
Yeah.
yeah.
Because you had white cables,
I still do.
physical,
Yeah.
like
And I just like my white cables. I don't know
yeah,
why.
yeah.
I'm
It
weird.
looks cool.
Yeah, I get it.
I've had
Yeah.
people shit talk me for my white
Wait,
cables.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, when the lights bounce off of it.
Johnson.
Oh, really?
That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, dude. But
Yeah. But yeah, like in VCV rack, because you can color code everything, like it's very handy.
yeah,
And if I remember to do it, but often I
right.
don't. Sometimes because it's a virtual rack, I can change it after the fact and color code stuff and reverse engineer things a bit. But even still, like you're saying, like coming back to it after the fact, I don't remember what the fuck's what anymore.
Yeah.
So got to try to do it as you're doing it. You know what I mean? To really make the system work. But
Yeah, but it's something that's come up through just using my system recently. I'm like, God, this would be a lot easier. And especially like, oh man, if they could go back in time and put like behind the panel clocking standards into modules, it would save so much.
yeah.
Like I don't change that stuff. I just need to make it be like a color so I can just let it disappear when I look at it, you
Right.
know, because I don't want to look at those. Like I don't need to know. I just want to be able to trace stuff down more quickly. And I think colors could help.
I remember seeing a comment on Modwiggler. Someone noted that mixer, I think, has 28 VCAs in total, like built into it to make it all work.
Oh yeah, because there's so much voltage controlled stuff in there.
Yeah. It's a lot of VCAs in a very tight
gets
package. Yeah.
Those fuckers get warm.
I've seen people note that too, saying it doesn't get hot, but it definitely gets warm.
I love it. I think their stuff I really obviously have gushed about it on here before,
Right.
but that was like a
passing comment. Yeah, it's nice to hear
your
thoughts on it more in depth.
Yeah, somebody on one of the Patreons, I forget who, mentioned that, and I just happened to get the Cosmix Pro, so figured I'd elaborate a little. Either one's a great fucking choice. If I was playing live more, I'd go for the Cosmix Pro.
Yeah.
I think in general, if I really had to choose, I would choose the Cosmix Pro because that stereo send is dope too. To be able to have like a panning sound and be able to reverb it and retain the panning without having to use like a separate chain, that's kind of
Yes.
pretty sweet.
Hell yeah.
If you like your panning to be retained.